All right, everyone, eyes on San Francisco. There is something Wong going on there. Specifically, Kelly Wong. She is a non-citizen, but somehow she's on the elections committee in San Francisco. Now, I've got multiple thoughts about this. First and foremost, I think the federal government should get involved and crack down on this bullshit, because it's clearly, this is not legal. The problem being, of course, it's the Biden administration. Differential enforcement, they just won't prosecute it. They know the law is being broken, but they won't do anything about it. Meanwhile, they're too busy suing Texas over the attempt to solve the Biden border crisis. It shows you the amazing diplomatic chops of the Biden administration when it differentially ignores actual U.S. law. We've got immigration laws. They're not being enforced. If a state wants to do it themselves, I don't know what the problem is. A little bit of pragmatism over the legalese in politics, please, and things would get much better. San Francisco, though, is massively woke. And that's why it's a shithole. San Francisco is overrun with human feces. It's overrun with homelessness and drug use. Have you checked the rents in and around San Francisco lately? Like, I make a decent income. If I were to go to San Francisco, I'd probably have to have a fucking roommate. At a maximum, I'd be living in like a pod, a subcompact little, like a fucking flat. It'd have like 2 rooms. It'd have one room for everything, and then, you know, a place to go potty and shower, and be like a 2x2 shower. You have to squeeze yourself in there and, you know, hope that the hot water heater actually works. And it'd be like a derelict 150-year-old building or something like that. That's how I'd be living in San Francisco. Most people couldn't even afford that. You know, I'd find myself lucky as a San Franciscan. Oh my God, I have a bathroom. I don't have to poop out in the street. I've got heat. I've got hot water. Oh my, I'm living the high life here. I'm in Frisco. Dude, like, I'd rather move to Manhattan or something like that. It'd be cheaper. The Manhattan rent would be cheaper than most parts of San Francisco, and I don't even exactly understand why. It's like you've got a shithole city that's overrun with crime and filth, and people are paying through the nose. Like, you know, $5,000 a month gets you a single bedroom place. You know, a small single bedroom, a closet, and a place to poop. $5,000 a month. Shit, Rutland's rent is definitely a lot higher than it should be, but it's not on the same order of goddamn magnitude. You can get that cheaper in a place like Vegas. Not a surprise. By the way, this is part of a larger problem. There are several of them. The first problem is that a number of states and municipalities are trying to allow people who are in some cases not even legally in the country, let alone just a generic non-citizen like Wong, vote in municipal elections. Now, to be clear, this doesn't affect federal level politics. It's not, they can't vote for the president or a senator or something like that. But municipal elections, I hate to tell people, but that's technically legal, because that's outside of the purview of the FEC in that general regard. In general, it's legal, which is why, despite court challenges, most of them have failed. Although I believe in the city of Burlington here in Vermont, they wanted to pass that, and I think they got shot down. I think that didn't actually get through the legal process. I can't remember exactly. It might have gone through, and I'm just misremembering. Maybe it was a different state or something. So I'm not sure. So don't quote me on that one. That's a big problem. The other big problem is the census. Yes. How do we allocate delegates from the states for the U.S. House's purposes, to make districts and so forth? How do we determine the composition of the House, etc.? Partially through the census. You need to know how many citizens are there, because for every certain number of citizens, you're getting a House member, and it's proportional in that sense. The problem is that the census also censuses people who are not citizens. It's sort of like back in the slave times. I mean, it's basically the modern the 3/5 compromise, basically. You remember that? How a slave counted for part of a human being for voting purposes allocated in Congress. The southern states originally, because they had slavery, and other states didn't. And was it the 2/3 compromise or the 3/5 compromise? I'm getting them mixed up probably. My apologies to my history professor in high school. But the compromise was basically this. For census purposes, slaves would count as a portion of a human being, thus giving the southern states a boost, because they're like, well, we've got all these people here, they're not citizens, they can't vote or anything, and we consider them subhuman, but we need representation for them anyway, for some reason. But they balked at the idea of joining up into what became the United States unless that was passed, and so they did. They compromised. It was a weird compromise. Very, very strange on both an ethical and a politically pragmatic basis. Might have had an early civil war back in the late 1700s if they hadn't passed it through. Might have been some fucking problems. Or the formation of 2 United States. And boy, would that have changed world history. This is quite clearly wrong on a legal basis, though. A person should not be involved with overseeing elections if they're not even capable of participating in them. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, which is why I'm not surprised to find that this is happening in California, let alone happening in San Francisco. But it's definitely wrong. And people there would, under normal situations, people would protest it. But again, this is San Francisco, so you can't expect anyone to really speak out against it because the city's like, what, 80% liberals and leftoids or something like that? Overwhelming. I mean, where would a person on the right or even just a generic anti-leftist, where would they even fucking work in San Francisco without getting harassed on the job constantly or getting mugged by Antifa thugs or something like that? Why would you even want to go there? I've never understood, by the way, and this has had nothing to do with politics, I've never understood the appeal of San Francisco. Yeah, I'm living on an active fault line. It might pop off at any point, and I might slough off into the ocean and end up drowned, or fall into a crevasse, or the buildings start falling down around me and I get hit in the head with a brick and buried under 10 feet of rubble. But it's Frisco. Well, I mean, who the fuck cares? What a lame-ass city. I gotta tell you, I mean, if you want to move to a city just to have clout, like, hey, I'm from the big city, I'm a big man, go to New York. If you don't mind if it's quake-prone, you'd go to Los Angeles. The fuck would you want to go to San Francisco for? Fuck, the rent there is so high. Living in a low-end place in a not necessarily great part of town is going to be more expensive than living in one of the better areas in Los Angeles. Again, check the goddamn rent if you don't believe me. In small town America, God, if you can swing that kind of rent, you can just rent a McMansion. Go down to Texas and see what you can get for that same $4,000 a month. Micro apartment in San Francisco. You move to one of the smaller cities down in the Rio Grande Valley, you're getting a place with 5 bedrooms and a limestone fireplace and a swimming pool and shit like that, on a nice fat half acre with a nice manicured lawn around other people with high incomes. It doesn't make any sense. What the fuck are you doing? And I become incredulous at some point. It's like every time that I think that they've exhausted the level of lunacy that they could possibly get to, they dream up something else that makes absolutely no goddamn sense. This person cannot vote. How can they be on the city's election commission? It literally makes no goddamn sense whatsoever. But San Francisco keeps surprising me. I don't know. 10 years from now, we'll have more San Francisco news. San Francisco legalizes fucking animals in public, or something like that. I wouldn't even be surprised at this point. It's like every meme about the far left woke-toids comes true. You just have to wait a while. That's about all. Peace out.